I just think it's a little far-fetched that the charges that he's being charged with, and then the testimonies going on the stand, stuff like that. It's not even matching up, you know. And that's just my opinion. But if I have any women listening to this, I do want to say personally that I'm against domestic violence. I'm against men putting their hands on women and stuff like that. But, as this trial's going, everybody's going to have an opinion about it. And people's going to say, what they think. And that's just the way it's going to be. And there's a whole lot of people got opinion on this trial. And the only dirt that I have seen is just the video in the hotel. That's really the only dirt I've seen. And then the guns that they found, who's to say they was his guns? You know what I mean? So could they have been, belonged to one of the security guards? You know what I mean? Stuff like that. I mean, you just never know because you got a lot of security. So I really don't know. Like I said, you're going to have to prove everything, and some of the stuff they're talking about ain't even what he's being charged with. So it's just kind of, it just kind of throws you for a spin and stuff like that. But and maybe he does. I don't know for a fact, but maybe he does need like anger management classes or something, and domestic violent abuse classes or something like that, where he can get a grip on himself and know how to handle himself around women and stuff like that. And then he definitely probably needs rehab, and I don't know if he's getting the proper rehab being locked up, to be honest with you. But, so far that's all I'm seeing is, charge him for domestic violence. I don't know what kind of punishment that holds. But that and that's all I see is domestic violence, and I can't even say the weapons with the defacable weapons because who's to say they was his guns? You know what I mean? So and I'm sure that may come up in the trial and stuff like that. I don't know. But it might not. If he's not being charged with it, they're not going to bring it up. You know what I mean? So, but basically all they really got that I see, and I don't know if y'all see the same thing I'm seeing, but the only thing I see is domestic violence, then maybe a drug addiction, maybe an alcohol addiction. But, them two things he can get rehab for, and he needs to get some help for, knowing, he should know he can't put his hands on women. I don't know what he was thinking. That's what makes me think he was intoxicated, maybe on pills or something like that with alcohol, because he did it out in the hallway where there's cameras, So that's what makes me think he was intoxicated and stuff like that. But you just can't put your hands on women. So, and I guess he's seeing that right now, you know. But I bet that was far from what he is thinking at the time in question. And even if he realized what he was actually doing in the first place, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to make excuses for him or anything like that. But it's somebody that's intoxicated and on different kinds of pills and stuff like that, you're not the same person that you normally would be if you wasn't on alcohol and if you wasn't on drugs. You're just not the same person. So, you know, he just needs to, I just feel like he probably needs rehab on that stuff and whatever the domestic violence charge holds, that maybe. And that's about all I see, you know. You know. And then a lot of people's, really, really against him because they're talking like he had people's publishing and stuff like that and just cheat them out a bunch of money and all that. So a lot of them people, a lot of people in that camp is totally against him, you know. But, you gotta ask yourself this. Okay, he did have their publishing and stuff like this, but how much money did they get? You know what I mean? Because they, if they're gonna say he took their publishing, and if he was the one that got you going and stuff, and maybe y'all just really didn't know what you were signing or didn't have a lawyer or whatever. I don't know what the situation was, but I just feel like the people who say, hey, he had our publishing and cheated us out a lot of money, they should at least say, well, how much money they did make. And that would really make a difference. Because for one, a record company that's going to sign you and stuff like that, they're going to put up a lot of money. So they're going to have to make some money somewhere, you know what I mean? So if they put up a lot of money to get you blowed up where you're on and popping and stuff like that, then down the road, you can maybe part ways or whatever and do your own thing because then you're well established. But, like I said, I ain't making no excuses for him or anything like that, but I do know that anybody with money is going to try to boost somebody up with their money. Is going to have to make some money. You know what I mean? They're not going to be able to just give you all the money, and they're the ones that got you going, So, and I'm sure a lot of people has a different opinion on what I just said, but I just don't feel like they were starving and stuff like that, just to be honest with you. But that's just my opinion. But them people there and in their camp, they definitely all against them, But the way it boils down is they're going to have to be able to prove the stuff he's being charged with, or it ain't going to go too far. I mean, they can stay in court all day long for many weeks. If you can't prove what he's being charged with, I don't know, the only thing I can see that somebody high up's trying to accomplish is just punishing him because he made somebody high up, or maybe several people high up, mad at him, and he's paying the consequences, But, you know, it's just a confusing situation, because with that Cassie girl that's ended up with $30 million and saying how she was abused and all that, but she kept leaving and going back and leaving and going back. It's just that really ain't cooking a good meal right there, to be honest with you. So, but now if he put his hands on her and hurt her, like they showed pictures of, a gash in her head and then some bruises on her and stuff. But them pictures, did he actually do that, or did somebody else do that? Because if you go on with several different guys and stuff like that, I don't know. I ain't making no excuses, but this sounds crazy to me, you know. But that's what she's claiming, that he put the bruises on her, gashed her head, and all that. So, you know, just we just outside looking in, basically. And, everybody's got an opinion on it, and I ain't got no bad thoughts about none of them, actually. I mean, I do know if you're hitting on women and stuff like that, I'm really against that. But and that video that we seen, that wasn't a good look. But he actually got on, live and apologized for that. And said he was seeking help at that time. So I don't know, but I just hope this learns him a lesson that if he's able to walk, which I feel like he'll walk, but if he's able to walk, going forward, my message to Puff is treat women well, man, because it could actually ruin your whole life, if you continue to do something like that. But hopefully it'll all, pan out, stuff like that and stuff, because, like I said, I just hate to see somebody rise and do really well and put a lot of people on, give a lot of people jobs and stuff like that, just to fall and crumble, you know what I mean? So, for his sake, he better hope it is the higher up folks just putting him through this to punish him. You know what I mean? And then maybe he can get cut loose later on without having to spend the rest of his life in jail. But, because that's kind of what I feel, a whole bunch of people that I've talked to, that's what they think. They just think that he pissed off some high up people and they put them through it, because, if you've been watching the trials, stuff like that, you can see plain as day that the only thing they really got that I can see is just domestic violence. You know. So we'll see how it goes. And we'll do another one later on. Stuff like that. But and my message out there to all men: don't put your hands on women, regardless if it's your girlfriend, your wife, or whatever. Don't put your hands on women. If they do something to get you real mad and stuff, just go away and cool down or something like that. Because where I come from, this could be a death sentence for you to put your hands on women. It's also, some guys will get into it with just a strange woman, at a place, at a restaurant or grocery store or whatever, and then try to put his hands on her like that. So, it's just, you just can't do that in some places, Some places you might get away with it, you won't get away with it through the law, but I'm talking about just people in general. Because a lot of people in certain places will check you if they see you doing that, So, my message to all dudes is just keep your hands to yourself. Do not touch women. Women are to be cherished, loved, and, held and, treated with respect, So, hopefully, all this, get sorted out, and then, maybe they could just give them I don't even know. I don't even think domestic violence is going to be a question, really, to be honest with you. Even though the video shows it, I don't even know if that's even going to be in the situation, to be honest with you. A lot of people and myself just think he's being punished because he pissed some people off that's high up. So we'll see how it pans out. But that being said, I'm going to leave it right there. And I will say, free Suge Knight. And if anybody wants to support the channel, the PayPal is $FC313. And the cash out is DDT313. It's in the descriptions. I might have said that backwards, really, huh? But anyways, it's on my other videos too. I got it. I'll probably print it out on this bottom of this video right here, because sometimes I get them twisted. But anyways, I appreciate y'all listening. Make sure you subscribe, hit the like and the notification bell. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Share the video. And hopefully Puff gets through this and all that. So we'll see what happens. But like I said, the only thing I see is domestic violence. But that's it. And I do believe he'll walk too. So that being said, we're going to end it right here. We appreciate everybody that's listening. Support the channel. Have a good evening. And we're out.